Hello, dear ones, and welcome back to Crypto's News. It's me, Omar Bam, aka Crypto, and I'm here to you with you for a nice update on what is going on in cryptocurrency. It's been a really nice change of pace to see things finally moving to the upside, things turning around for Bitcoin, which has finally recovered a lot of the losses that have happened since the FTX drama began. And I think that's very encouraging for folks. We have more and more people, I think, tuning in, trying to pay attention. While we have some metrics that look at Bitcoin, trying to decide whether it's going to continue to rally or not, looking negative. We have others that are also painting the picture of a possible bottom, lining up with a lot of what's gone on similarly at the bottoms for 2013, 2015. And other points. But at the same time, you have certain metrics, like, for example, the number of, we're going to get into that in just a moment, guys. But I just want to give a big thank you to you guys. Finally hit 1,800 subscribers on the new channel. Thank you for that so much, for the vote of confidence and being able to be the one to give you a tour of what's going on. What are people talking about in crypto today? Welcome to those of you guys here live. What's up, Bitcoin Jake, Kevin, and number of things. Thanks for your commentary, guys. And always remember to hit the like button if you enjoy these videos. We're going to get into some of the market stuff as to whether I think the prices are going to be moving up in the short term and longer term. We're going to get into some of the news as well as to what folks are talking about today. So let's go ahead and just get started. So when we're looking at CoinGecko, as we like to start off, let's go ahead and refresh here. Yep. Bitcoin hasn't really managed to breach its resistance at 21,500. It's currently at $21,301.59, kind of stalling out here, although it's up really nicely over the last week. It's at up about 24%. You have Ethereum likewise just south of $1,600 at $1,589.93, up 0.3% over the last 24 hours. You have market cap still nicely over $1 trillion for cryptos. I would have thought that it would have been higher into this cycle, but then again, we're possibly right around the bottom. So, not too much of a surprise that the market cap overall has come down. But I remember when it first had passed $1 trillion, I think that was in 2017. And that was a wild time when we were sitting just around these prices. And at the same time, people are still quite negative right now. Although that is climbing somewhat. You have the crypto fear and greed index for the first time since April of what is this? Yeah, April of 2022. 2021? No, April of 2022. It is finally breaching 50 and crossed into the neutral territory, no longer in the fear area. So cool. People are getting a little bit more bullish. I don't know if that's a good thing, but they're not overly bullish like you might see in other times in history if you've maxed this out. I think for the most part, if you're looking at the majority, there tends to be more fear in crypto than greed. But when we're painting greedy pictures, prices are usually making people quite happy until they don't, of course. I was going to show you this number of addresses with a non-zero balance. This is potentially saying that we're not really in a bull market just yet. You don't have really new money entering crypto, perhaps. You don't have new accounts opening up or new addresses that are getting shoveled new Bitcoin into it. Likely what's been going on is accumulation from those accounts that already have some Bitcoin. So this isn't a sign that the bull market is getting widespread, that you're going to be hearing about this on the radio. Like, now is the time to be buying Bitcoin. You're not going to be hearing about this in the news, but that's generally why you're early, I would say, rather than late. As you can see, the number of addresses with a non-zero balance is pretty much moving sideways at this time. And yes, this is Bitcoin in a nutshell, not being able to break its resistance. And you do have the RSI 14 quite hot right now, as you can see. So to me, this is saying that we're probably going to be getting a pullback in the near term. That's pretty much what I would expect, although it's climbed higher than I would have expected. So I think this strength is really, really nice to see. You've had liquidations shortening or going down actually over the last 24 hours. So this is those who borrow cryptocurrencies to trade on leverage. We had on Friday the biggest amount of liquidations in recent history. As you can see, their shorts lost about 492 million in liquidations there. Longs at 129 million in liquidations, almost 130 million liquidations, but it was massive. And you had seen this big uptick in liquidations for the shorts for a while now. I think that is beginning to slow down somewhat. So there's less juice and rocket fuel to the upside because a lot of these recent shorts have been liquidated. And I think markets need time to kind of rebalance things. I'm not sure that volatility is going to go down. I would like to, just looking at this, kind of assume that volatility will be dropping off somewhat, but I just looking at kind of the chart itself, I don't think that's going to be the case. Frankly, I think that volatility is going to be in for a little while longer now, picking up. Anyway, it looks, according to sentiment, they think that maybe we're seeing a top in the near term. They wrote, "Our crypto market seeing a top. Traders are behaving like they believe so, taking this opportunity to profit take while given the chance. Bitcoin is seeing its highest profit transaction ratio since February 2021. For Ethereum, it's the highest since October 2021. You can see here is Bitcoin in the blue, purple, and in the pink you have Ethereum, and those that are in the profit are quite high. So this is, I think, looking more at traders. They try to basically see, based on these transactions on chain, which ones are more likely to be trading accounts or trading activity versus like buying investment activity, or those who have been holding for a longer term. And yeah, perhaps there is more movement going on with those traders at this time. But for me, it's not really that you're seeing these traders take so much of a profit for the most part. Although it's really not investors taking profits. This is just more short-term trading. But it does seem to me like just because they have more of an ability to take a profit in the near term, it could be the situation where they do take a profit, and that is what could potentially take us down a little bit. And yeah, you can see the RSI 14 really, really high there. Highest that we've seen, I don't know, what is this, since January 2021. So I don't know how much higher it can continue to go without some sort of pullback. It would seem like it's just defying gravity if it did. This is just based on my instinct, and not that it can happen, but my own experiences. It's very likely that we will get a healthy correction here, and that buying now would be a bit riskier, unless, of course, you're just following your own dollar cost averaging models and so on. Or you're just buying for the long term. I mean, you're still going to be happy buying Bitcoin at 21,000 versus, like, I don't know, 18,000 if it hits $1 million in the future. It's really not going to matter that much to you, I would think. But for the short term or the medium term, that would be a consideration, that there could be potentially better times to get in. But yeah, you can see right there the resistance. It's very, very tight. It just hit its resistance of back here in November 2022 right now. If it breaches that, I would imagine it wouldn't have much higher to climb before settling back down at that level and creating that as support. But realistically, I think it's going to be coming down somewhat. I can't tell you an exact number, but I would assume it's higher than this point right here of 18,000. So it would probably settle somewhere between 19,000 and I don't know, 20,000 would be my imagination. But not a guarantee, of course. I'm not a financial advisor. I barely follow crazy amounts of trading. This is just based on looking at charts like this over the years and how these markets tend to behave. And so that's pretty much what I'm expecting. But pulling back a little bit here, I think this is painting a nice cup and handle pattern, almost a perfect cup and handle. You can see the left part of the cup here on November 2022 drops pretty much sideways for a while, a little bit up, then climbing up to where we're at right now to about the same level. This would, again, if we drop, just make the handle part of it, and then that would actually be very bullish and take us higher. So I think it would be bullish again to see a pullback here, whether it's a pullback or push higher here. I think that is going to be creating bullish scenarios, unless, of course, we somehow break, I don't know, below 15,000 bucks. There's still plenty of folks out there that think that we have not reached the lows. I don't share that sentiment. I do feel like we have likely bottomed out here. That's how I would be playing this thing. and not want to miss the boat. But I think there are those out there like Colin Talks Crypto that actually believe that that would be ridiculous to think that we're going to be entering a bull market, that we're too far away based on previous cycles. It's been too short of a bear market, basically, and we'll be too far away from a top. I think most people are saying that the top of the next bull market would likely be around 2025. This would be way too early to begin painting that picture. But Bitcoin cycles don't always repeat themselves in the exact way, and you have to stay somewhat limber and flexible. As Eric Crown pointed out, a trader that I do follow on YouTube, and I think you should as well, Crown's Crypto Cave. I think some of you might remember I had him on in the old show. He just points out again that people like to trade based on fractals, and they look at prior cycles and they try to attribute things that happen to exactly them happening in that way in this cycle. And it just based on everything he has looked at doesn't happen that way. So anyway, trade cautiously out there. That's pretty much my thoughts, analysis of the market heading into this week. I suppose I would expect that there'll probably be some downside, but that doesn't mean I'm getting bearish. In fact, I'm bullish on the medium term and the longer term more than I've been in a long time right now personally, but it's anyone's guess as always. So Silvergate, crypto-focused bank operator, they have posted a huge loss so to start with the news, of course. So $1 billion loss as the crypto industry suffers a crisis of confidence. That is the title here on the block. So they had actually posted in the last quarter of last year, an $18.4 million profit, whereas they had a staggering, $1.05 billion loss this year. So this, they said, is due to the digital asset industry experiencing a transformational shift with significant over leverage in the industry, leading to several high-profile bankruptcies. These dynamics created a crisis of confidence across the ecosystem and led many industry participants to shift to a risk-off position across digital asset trading platforms. So they had customer deposits that fell by 68% in the 3 months that ended on December 31st. So they had customer deposits fall to $3.8 billion from $11.9 billion. I suppose that's in the third quarter, although this article in particular doesn't actually say that, but I believe that was in the third quarter, the $11.9 billion that they had. They also had to cut 40% of their staff. So that's something you've seen happen a lot. Even today, Microsoft is laying off something like 11,000 employees. So it's not just crypto that's being affected here by, I think, climbing interest rates and other factors. Although I think specific to crypto, there has been a lot of deleveraging that's gone on and affected high profile firms like that in, I think, a more significant way than what you saw in traditional finance. But I think for Microsoft specifically, I think there could be the potential. I mean, they're don't they still have one of the highest market caps ever when it comes to stocks? Something like $3 trillion. I'm just thinking off the top of my head. Last that I had checked, I should probably check the market cap for Microsoft. Microsoft market cap. But anyway, where is that? What is the market cap right now? Yeah, 1.79 trillion. That's like almost double what cryptocurrency has. But I think that they could have a stronger situation in the future, investing in things like OpenAI, where they were keen on taking a huge share in that. I think Microsoft isn't going to be too much of a laggard in the future personally. But yeah, just crazy how small crypto is overall. Anyway, FTX, there's a story going around about FTX. Hey, morning, Jesse. What's going on? Good to see you guys. If I've missed some of your comments here. So FTX in the news. This is to do with the amount of congressmen who were lawmakers in the U.S. who received political donations from Sam Bankman-Fried. So he donated to so many of them. Wow, on both sides of the fence, Democrats, Republicans, didn't matter. 1 in 3 of all senators, 535 senators and representatives he donated to. Uh, so this is a huge, I encourage you to actually read this article yourself. It was a deep dive into all of this done on behalf of CoinDesk. I do have to give them props on this article. They did their homework on this one, calling all these representatives and trying to get their stance on what they're going to be doing with that money, which might be subject to clawbacks. They might have to give it back. There's been precedent in the past where even Barack Obama, he balked at having to give back some funds that were linked to a Ponzi. That this article goes into that and a lot more. But yeah, FTX money, which was likely stolen from customers, was showered nearly 37% of Congress, 196 congressmen receiving donations from FTX executives versus 339 only that did not. And you can see why they were meeting and so willing to agree with FTX into shaping the future of the cryptocurrency industry, and why he felt so confident in telling lawmakers or outlining on Twitter how cryptocurrency should proceed in regulations to the future, going so far as to talk about how private wallets should be dealt with and DeFi and everything else that he really shouldn't have had a matter talking about at all, specifically with everything that's come out in the news so far. Jesse Doe, thank you so much, Jesse, for becoming a member on YouTube. That means so much. Thanks, man. I really appreciate that, man. And for all the other Patreons and YouTube sponsors, thank you so much for that as well. Thanks. Anyway, of the 53, I mean, there's so much data here. Like, this is funny. There's this Lou Correa, who's a Democrat from California, representative. He received the full limit of $2,900 directly from Bankman-Fried. When asked from CoinDesk, "What's up, man?" He said, "I don't know the gentleman. I never talked to him." What a politician, right? But he did intend to donate that same amount of money, the $2,900 that he received, to his alma mater, California State University, to support their Dreamer Education Fund. Way to turn a potential negative into something that could make you look good. Anyway, you actually have a lot of them that are returning the money. There's this huge spreadsheet here that you can see posted by CoinDesk. They talk about all these representatives, whether they got a response from them or not, whether they plan to give the money back or not. Have they donated it? A lot of what went on with these politicians is that they donated it, like Mr. Correa of California. They donated it to whatever fund or to whatever purpose to try to play a game of hot potato. It says here, there's Anthony Sabino, a bankruptcy expert and professor of law at St. John's University, who spoke with CoinDesk. And he said that basically what these politicians are doing, a lot of them, is playing a game of hot potato that they play as a political move, but it doesn't absolve them from having to give back the money potentially as his bankruptcy takes place. The law does not care if you gave the money to Mother Teresa, Sabino said. And if the money has already been spent, tough luck. If you no longer have the money, too bad, you're still liable. You might have to bankrupt yourself. So it looks like 143 did not, of these members who received funds, of the 196 did not respond to CoinDesk. The vast majority of them, 34 of them said, "Oh, well, I donated it. I got rid of it. I don't know." 19 said they returned the funds or plan to return. There's been some confusion about how to return those funds because, for example, we talked about how Sam Bankman-Fried's assets and accounts were taken from him, and therefore they didn't know how to give the money back. There was one politician who returned the $5,800 he received, Mitt Romney, actually. He gave it back to the Treasury, or he gave it to the Treasury because he did not know what to do with it. Then you have some who have been very crypto friendly, like one who's very popular on Twitter, Tom Emmer, who received $8,700 from some of the executives of FTX's subsidiary Ledger X. And he's been pretty mum on the subject of his donations and what he's done with them. He's treated the FTX crash like a blip, continuing his rhetorical crusade on behalf of the industry in speeches and tweets and appearances since the exchange filed for bankruptcy in November. He said that the FTX collapse was a failure of character, not of crypto, which is actually true. He said that the industry will keep growing. You do not get growth without taking risk. Very, very true. Fire hose of money, they wrote here. Anyway, yeah, if you want more information, I do recommend you get into this. There's plenty more I did not talk about. It goes into the packs, which allow basically dark money that is not as visible and transparent as what is being discussed here mostly. Anyway, huge amounts of dark money that have likely been donated by Sam Bankman-Fried that don't have to abide by these political limits. Him giving the limit many times to different politicians and so much else. So I would say this is one of the better CoinDesk articles that I've seen recently. And I have to give credit where credit is due. Definitely check it out for yourself. Let me write it out here actually in the chat. So if this is relevant to you, you can look into that. Oh, it looks like it might be too long, the link. Oh, I can shorten it by taking out the Twitter segment of it. There you go. Casper coin is in Davos. I'm not entirely sure what that means, Adrian, but it sounds like good news, man. I remember Casper coin from back in the day, but I'm not sure what Davos is. Hey, Gorch Robot, thank you for your support as well, man. So Gemini and Earn, this is something I hadn't talked about before, but it's just funny because I was on Twitter and I got an ad actually here. You can see promoted for this class action lawsuit against Gemini and their Earn program that gave people over a 7% yield for depositing their crypto. They were open for a while after you had entities like Celsius and Voyager and even BlockFi. They had their own hiccups, but they've gone on to continue, I think, better than I would have expected personally. But anyway, you had Gemini's Earn program continuing to stay open for a while. Eventually, they froze that, and there's about $1 billion in customer deposits that are frozen there. So, there's all sorts of class action lawsuits taking place. Look at this one, David Silver, to try to get that money back or something for customers. 340,000 Gemini Earn clients are currently locked out of their accounts with no access to their money for days, weeks, and months. The clients were told, be patient. We're working on your behalf. We will make this right. The clock has expired. So something I didn't cover that took place that last week, and I know a lot of you guys do watch this show as your main source of what's going on in crypto, and I like to present what is important, but this was something I think notable, which is that there was a lawsuit that took place from the Securities and Exchange Commission, the SEC, which came out and actually filed a lawsuit against Gemini. Gemini and Genesis. So Genesis was what allowed for the Earn program to give that yield. They basically took place of all the trading in the background, and that is owned by DCG, Digital Currency Group, that is one of the biggest entities in crypto. They own CoinDesk. They own the Grayscale Bitcoin Trust, the investment trust. They basically built up Grayscale and everything else, but they also own, again, Genesis, that did the trading for the Earn program. So the SEC is suing Genesis, and they are suing Gemini for their Earn program for offering or for soliciting unregistered securities here. And this is after the fact. Like, why do they not do this kind of enforcement action since they've supposedly been investigating this kind of program and other programs like it for years in many cases? Why don't they do enforcement actions before customers get hurt? Instead, they do it after the fact. And I think that is ridiculous, because now funds that would have gone toward making possibly customers whole in the future through the courts or whatever, now some of that is going to have to go into paying even more lawyers to have to deal with the SEC, into more penalties that could be imposed here that would be due to the SEC and everything else here. So here's Tyler Winklevoss, one of the founders of Gemini, and what he had to say in regards to this action from the SEC. It is disappointing that the SEC Gov chose to file an action today as Gemini and other creditors are working hard to recover funds. This action does nothing to further our efforts and help Earn users get their assets back. Their behavior is totally counterproductive. As a matter of background, the Earn program was regulated by the NY Department of Financial Services, which is very, very strict. And we've been in discussions with the SEC about the Earn program for more than 17 months. They never raised the prospect of any enforcement action until after Genesis paused withdrawals on November 16th. Despite these ongoing conversations, the SEC chose to announce their lawsuit to the press before notifying us. Super lame. It's unfortunate that they're optimizing for political points instead of helping us advance the cause of 340,000 Earn users and other creditors. We look forward to defending ourselves against this manufactured parking ticket, and we will make sure this doesn't distract us from the important recovery work we are doing. But seriously, what is the point or urgency here? The EARN program has been shut down for almost 2 months. For the avoidance of doubt, Gemini has always worked hard to comply with all relevant laws and regulations. Any suggestion to the contrary is unsupported by the facts. Oh, and on a more positive note, Bitcoin hit $19,000 today onward. This was on January 12th. So a bit of an update there on that situation, since I didn't get to cover that. What a dumpster fire. And just since I always talk about some of the stirrings that are going on, it's like, while you're on Instagram, Twitter, there's more fear mongering going on around central bank digital currencies right now being adopted. This is something that's not new. This has been going on for years, but it's trying to scare the mainstream. And I think it's really good into paying a little bit more attention here with these central bank digital currencies. These would be fiat currencies. Fiat basically means money by government decree. You have to accept it, and they pretty much issue it here. So these are being developed by central banks around the world, being researched actively here in the United States. There are even different pilot programs. I had read about 2 that the Federal Reserve has worked with to actually at least research. They haven't done anything as far as a possible implementation, at least not publicly, of a central bank digital currency. But I think they're setting up here. And I think that's why you're seeing other videos being shared, right? Like videos about how FDIC that I had shared recently wouldn't make all customers whole in the event that banks shut down and they lost accounts, or other failures that could potentially be coming down when it comes to the currency system. I think that there's been a lot of band-aids and resourcefulness here from central banks to prevent any sort of collapse or tragedy, but it feels like a lot of this now is being put together by glue and tape, being held up the financial system. And eventually it could be the case that it comes down and something has to be ready to take its place. And I think that's what central bank digital currencies are ultimately being set up for, is when there is some ultimate failure. I don't know how they would fund people's accounts. Maybe if you're a citizen, you open an account at the bank, they would 1-for-1 deposit, some sort of ratio, something like that. I don't think central bank digital currencies will be backed by anything, but how much faith will people have in a currency system that is created by them again, right? The Federal Reserve, who created this scenario. Unfortunately, the mainstream media is making it seem like they're still the good guys, that they're not the enemy here, and that they are really trying to take care of us here. But unfortunately, I think there would be better ways of doing that. Maybe they are doing their best. I don't know here. They didn't create the system, but likely it's their own lineage and descendants who are still running that system. And it's really not working for the majority of people, as inflation, they try to deflect from inflation, still hurts people. Anyway, point being, central bank digital currencies, I think a big thing, trying to create fear. I think it is important that we look at them as an alternative to actual digital currencies, free digital currencies like Bitcoin and Ethereum. And I think it's up to us to speak about the differences, to make sure that people understand who the enemy is and what the better alternatives for the people truly is. And I know that I stand on that fight and on that side of things, which is not some sort of political thing for points here, but what will ultimately help the greatest amount of people here by having good money. And this is exemplified with our quote of the day here as we wrap up. And that is by Milton Friedman. The power to determine the quantity of money is too important, too pervasive to be exercised by a few people, however public-spirited, if there is any feasible alternative, and there is now. There is no need for such arbitrary power. I agree with that, and I hope you do as well. Take care, everyone. Thank you so much. Let me know your thoughts down below in the comments, and hopefully you'll keep up the good fight with me. I think all of this is not necessarily about short-term profit, though I do look at that, and I like to point that out for those who do care, of course, because there's opportunity, and unfortunately, we do need money to survive every day, but we want our money to be there for the generations to come, and I think it will be that way. It's just unfolding, and that's what we're really doing here, is watching it develop. But I think we can help shift the narrative there quicker and help the greatest amount of people by talking about this early on in these early days anyway. Take care, much love, and stay cryptic. Peace.